In this lesson, we're going to learn how to do one of the simplest tasks in C++, and that is how to print a message such as good morning to the screen. What you're going to need is a place to write your code. That is called an integrated development environment. There are a lot of integrated development environments or IDEs online. The one I'm using is called Replit, repl.it. Once you go to the site for Replit, it gives you the option to sign up with your Google account or set up a separate sign-in. And once you've signed up and you've logged in, at the bottom right you see this plus sign. If you go ahead and click on it, the next thing you need to tell the program is what are you writing your code in, which programming language you're writing your code in. So in our case that would be C++, and you click on this top link. That takes you to the next screen where you can begin to write your code. Replit comes up with some rather silly names for your website, for your file. And what you want to do is you want to click and name it something that will remind you of the content that's inside your file. So in my case, I'm going to say this is lesson 1 print. And that should save as lesson 1 print, and hopefully that will remind me of what's actually inside this file. Now, we have a simple program pre-written in Replit. It always comes with this default program. We're going to spend a minute analyzing the structure, so even if a program is not pre-written, you know your way around how to put together a basic structure. So now, this is the side that you code in, and this is the side that shows the output or the result of your code. And this run button here runs this code and generates something on this side. And if your code is working properly, it should generate what you expect. In this case, when I hit run, the pre-written program generates this result. It says hello world, because that's what was coded, pre-coded. Now you will notice if I go back and if I change just hello world, nothing else in the program, to good morning, and hit run, it's going to generate good morning, we're hoping. There you go. Okay, so the structure of a C++ program works like this. The int main on line 3 refers to the main program. So whenever you see int main in C++, that tells you what your main program is, where it starts and where it ends. Your main program starts with this curly brace and ends with this curly brace. Within the curly brace is the command that runs when you hit the run button. In this case, the only command that's inside those curly braces says to print good morning. So in C++, cout is print. Print to the console, print to the screen. What do you want me to print to the screen? I want you to print good morning. A few things to notice. Good morning is within quotation marks. If you remove these quotation marks, like this, you'll begin to see red squiggly lines. Now the program doesn't understand what you want it to do. When you put the quotation marks back, the squiggly lines disappear because the program understands that you want it to print that exact message, good morning. So then the question is, what is this \n? \n is C++ way of saying move on to a new line. End this line and move on to a new line. So in this case, you'll notice that the \n doesn't print on the screen. That's because C++ understands \n as a separate command, which refers to going on to a new line, and it's not part of the print message. So if I were to now, after the \n, enter Bob and run it, it'll print good morning, end of line, new line, Bob. Now you'll see that Bob is indented. If I want to get rid of that, I come back here, get rid of the space, and run it again. Good morning, Bob. Now if I want to go on to another line, I just simply do \n, isn't it a wonderful day? And then run it, and that too should print on a separate line. And again, you want to get rid of the indent, you get rid of that extra space you put in there, run it, and everything should print on a separate line. The other thing you want to notice here is the beginning of the file has hashtag include IOStream. Now, if you were to get rid of this and try to run the program, you'll see that right away you get a red squiggly line underneath STD. The program refers to a file, a library called IOStream to figure out what STD means. As long as you tell the program, by putting back what we just deleted, that it needs to refer to IOStream, it'll go to IOStream and understand what STD is. It'll figure out what STD is. But the minute you remove that library, it won't understand STD. It's like taking away the language of ability from someone and then speaking to them in that language, and they won't understand what you're asking. So the library include IOStream is a fairly fundamental one that you need to include for basic things like printing. Now, cout in C++ it refers to printing, console out, which means print to the console, print to the screen, which performs this task of printing. But before the cout, the STD you could get rid of so that your code looks a little cleaner if you go and include on the second line this phrase, using namespace STD and semicolon. Now you'll notice that that there are no more squiggly lines. It understands what cout is. The program understands cout even without STD because we included that second line. So these are the two lines really you want to include in all your programs. The other thing that you want to notice is that there are two less than signs pointing out of the screen with cout. Cout comes when you do a printout. You want to include these two less than signs. And every command in C++ ends with a semicolon. This is the basic language of C++. If you were to forget any of these, they would generate an error. So for example, if I get rid of the semicolon and try to run the program doesn't understand where that particular command ends. And it kind of has an idea of where the error is. So if you look at this red error message, it'll say that somewhere near line 5, I was expecting a semicolon, before this curly brace. So it's saying that right here, right about somewhere here, there should be a semicolon. And you want to be able to read these error messages carefully and go back and fix the error, and then your program should run. Now, you can print text. You can also print numbers. So if I go back and if I delete all of this, and if I want to print the number 2019 and hit run, it'll print 2019. If I want to print a series of numbers, such as 100, then remember the \n to end your line, 200, \n, 300, and then hit run, as you'd expect, it prints 100, then it says, oh, I need to end the line, print 200, end the line, print 300, end the line. And this is taking a little bit of time to run. Let's run it again. Sometimes you just need to hit run a couple of times, and there we are. You can also print graphics to the screen, things that look like pictures. So for example, if I wanted to print a series of lines, as long as I leave the quotation marks in there, a couple of lines, and then I hit run, that prints a long line with dashes in it. So in summary, what we have learned is you want to be able to understand the main structure of a C++ program. So if you make an error, you understand where the structure might be missing a component. You want to add using namespace std to the lines before int main. And you want to end every line. Whenever you want to end a line, you want to put \n in there. Use quotation marks to print exact characters and spaces to the screen. And with that, you should be able to print anything you like to the screen.